r/AskReddit. What is the most effective psychological trick you use? This isn't something I've used, but I think it's worth sharing. Darren Brown said that once there was a muscly drunk guy that wanted to beat him up and said the classic "What are you looking at?" Darren replied with, "The wall outside my house is 4 feet tall." The idea is that it puts the aggravated person on the back foot and takes them out of that adrenaline-filled state. Anyways, he sat down and the guy started crying to him about his GF. He is Darren Brown though, so I wouldn't recommend this to everyone. Darren Brown also suggests, for example, "Are you looking at my girl? Sorry, she reminded me of my sister. She was killed in a car accident." There's a video somewhere about verbal jiu-jitsu, which is the art of defusing conflict before it starts. "You looking at my girlfriend? Is her name Mary? What? No? Sorry, she looked like someone I went to school with. My apologies," is the best line I've got for defusing ye old boyfriend question. To avoid workplace drama and be well liked is to just compliment people behind their back. I would never say this to her face, but she's a wonderful person and a gifted artist. My co-workers can get a little catty sometimes. When they're griping to me about something someone else did, I just shut it down with X. Is just so great with customer service though, or some compliment about the person they're complaining about. Works like a charm and sends the message, "I'm not going to feed into this crap, so go away." So good. When someone is trying to throw excuses, or generally if they are getting a bit arsy about something, often the best way to handle it is to stare back with mild interest and contribute nothing to their monologue. If you don't give them anything to work with, they'll talk themselves into a corner and lose confidence in what they're saying. I learned this trick from an old director who used to control pretty much any meeting room scenario by being the most silent and impassive person in the room. I fondly remember the time someone asked him a ridiculous question and he just stared at him for about 15 seconds. 15 seconds is a long time to be stared at in a room full people. The guy wilted into his chair and nobody could work out if the director was angry or just quietly mulling it over. I worked for a company that had a VP that would use this technique all the time. People would always get nervous and say something stupid or change the subject when the silence got too long. It was very effective at getting people to divulge information they shouldn't or give up on topics. He would be considered my boss's boss. One time in a room with about 60 technical engineers, I found myself in a very strange situation where I had to ask him a particularly tough question that most of my peers were afraid to ask. I was in a spot where I knew that if the issue didn't get addressed, we all would be out of a job in a year or so. He was in the front of the room and I was near to the back. It was protocol to stand when talking so others could see you. I stood up and asked the question knowing full well that I wouldn't get an answer, and the starring contest began. One of the other guys claimed he watched the clock and it went on for over a minute. The other VP that was in the room got so uncomfortable that he adjourned the meeting for lunch at 10:45. Long story made short, they sold the company about 4 months later and we were all out of a job anyway. Think of my future self. How will my future self feel in an hour or two if I skip my gym session? Will my future self be happy if I do this pile of dishes now, before bed? Or would he prefer to have to do it in the morning, before work? I have a 3-month deadline on this project. Will my future self appreciate my current self taking the first 3 or 4 weeks easy? Or will he be really pissed off? Essentially delayed gratification. Pretty much all the bad stuff gives us instant gratification, while all the good stuff has delayed gratification. I always try to remember that if I have to wait to reap the rewards, then it's probably the best option. My past self likes to put chapsticks where she thinks I'll need them, by the bedside, in a sweater pocket, in the car console, in my work bag, and I find her completely adorable. IDK if this is an actual thing or not, or maybe just distractions. But when I do something annoying or bothersome to my husband and he goes quiet, I wait a few minutes and then I ask him a seemingly innocent question, usually on the subject of how certain parts of a car works or something mechanical. This gets him talking about the car thing and he rambles for like 5 minutes and then bam, he's happy again and not quietly brooding. I'll never tell him I do that because I'm afraid it won't work anymore if he knows about it. It's foolproof though, it works every single time, no matter how bothered he is. A girl I like does this to me. I know exactly what she's doing and I'd fall for it every time. This trick works with my mother. We used to have a ton of ferrets and she adored them. Whenever she was pissy I'd just give her a ferret. Bad mood gone. One that I picked up from a friend of mine. Whenever he was trying to pick out dinner with his GF, rather than ask what do you want, and getting the typical I dunno anything answer and then having suggestions shot down, start with what do you not want. Used it a few times in some of my relationships and it's the godsend question. There's also the guess where I'm taking you to dinner trick. Then when she guesses you just say yeah, how do you know? I also like the 5, 2, 1 game. One of you pick 5 places, then pick 2, then 1. Usually narrows down on something to eat or do. Listening to someone without giving advice or pushing for more information typically nets me more information than being pushy for it. If you want to hear what someone has to say, just let them speak. If they stop, just wait. They will continue speaking and adding to what they were saying to fill the silence. I've done this a lot. I always find it interesting how many times people give more information when I don't push for it. I don't want to talk about it. Okay. Changes subject, starts talking about the thing they said that they didn't want to talk about. My theory is that they feel safer after realizing their boundaries will be respected, but I could be wrong. When somebody shy is speaking, if you look at them and nod your head it encourages them to keep talking. I'm hard of hearing. I've spent a lot of my life nodding at my family to show I've heard and understood so they don't ask, did you hear that? I do it at work, especially in meetings. I get a lot of attention from the speaker as I look like the only person actively listening. This also works if they are unsure if their answer is the correct one. Slightly different premise but same outcome. Nodding will reaffirm and make them more comfortable finishing their thought. Saying hello to everybody you know and with a smile. Often people who know each other from when they were in primary school or just from the block when they were young give each other an awkward smile instead of an happy good day. Just imagine if someone walks into you twice a year and both times you smile and greet them enthusiastically, they will think of you as a nice person. So little effort for a person to find you friendly. I've started doing this on the walk to work. I see the same 6 to 7 people every morning from a pool of about 10. By default, none smile and maybe 3 make eye contact. I've gone out of my way to look like an idiot and smile at them forcibly over the last couple months. At least 7 of those people now smile back when they see me every morning. Feels good. I know a couple of people who I've seen like 3 times each who, each time, would happily greet me by name. I would ducking die for them. When you're talking to someone, they will naturally fill silence. It's subconscious. If you want them to keep talking, keep your own mouth shut. This is useful if you're ever in a verbal altercation. This only works if someone is afraid of silence. I'm guilty of doing it, but most people I meet do not. If anything, I'd say a good tip is to become comfortable with the silence so you can think peacefully and come up with something organic to say. Sadly, I think it's inevitable sometimes. Silence is only awkward if you make it awkward. My former coworker and I would go all day without speaking if we could. He's a cool guy. We still never talk sometimes. Says nothing. I used this technique at university, where I couldn't stand the thought of having to answer questions in front of a group of people. So if you find yourself in a group situation where someone, a leader, tutor, manager etc. is asking questions that must be answered, and you want to avoid being picked so that you don't have to talk, then here is my tip. If the person locks eyes on you as they ask the question, then just as they are about to get to the end of their question you break eye contact and look towards another person in the room and hold it. Their attention is diverted to that other person, just as the question ends and the person they are now looking at feels compelled to answer. If however the person starts asking the question while looking at someone else, then look at that other person and hold it so you can't get suckered. Use it sparingly, because if you do it enough on the same person, they will be onto you. That is some sneaky clever ass shit. I love it. Set expectations low and blow people's minds with my mediocrity. Stop telling everyone my secret. My parents might find out. Music. Putting headphones in and playing the music that I know I'd want to hear if I was in the mood that I want to be in shifts me over to that mentally and really helps when I need to calm down or when I need to feel happier. I feel like this is the audio version of dressing for what you want. I get into my gym clothes even when I feel sluggish because it will put me in the mood to work out. Or I'll put on work clothes even when I'm working at home because I'll be more productive or more professional on the phone than if I were wearing pajamas. Inner argument, find something to agree on, then push your main point. When you realize this, it's like a superpower. Would you agree that Paris is the capital of France? Yes. Great. Now give me my ducking money. You've reached the end. You're a star. Destroy the subscribe button for more like that.